You're 25. Scrolling through Instagram, everyone seems to be winning dream jobs, exotic vacations, picture-perfect relationships, and then it hits you that quiet anxiety. Am I falling behind? Here's the truth. What society glorifies about your 20s, it has almost nothing to do with what actually leads to long-term happiness and success. See, most people spend this decade chasing what's visible, promotions, followers, milestones, but they ignore what really matters, the invisible groundwork that shapes the rest of their lives. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what to focus on in your 20s, the stuff no one talks about, but everyone wishes they'd known. This isn't about grinding harder or living wilder. It's about the quiet, unsexy, high-leverage work that makes your 30s, 40s, and beyond legendary. Let me take you back to years. I was at a college reunion. Everyone was sharing impressive UPDATE's new titles, engagements, home purchases. When it got to me, I had nothing flashy to report, no headline wins. I'd spent the year quietly working on myself, rebuilding my mental health, cutting toxic ties, figuring out who I actually was. No applause, no status, just silent, internal progress. That night, I felt like a failure. I started mentally checking all the boxes I hadn't ticked by 27 and shaming myself for it. What I didn't realize, I'd fallen into what psychologists call narrative conformity, judging my life through a script society wrote for me, not based on what would actually serve me in the long run. And the science behind this is fascinating. Your 20s aren't just extra time to be young, they're a critical window. Your brain is finishing its last major development phase. The prefrontal cortex, the part that handles planning, self-control, decision-making, is still forming. That means this decade is both incredibly malleable and incredibly important. And here's what most people miss. Every year you spend chasing validation is a year you're not investing in what really moves the needle. Think about it. Would you rather build a house that looks amazing from the outside but is structurally weak, or lay a rock-solid foundation, even if it doesn't impress anyone yet? Most people choose the former without realizing it. In a moment, I'll walk you through 3 invisible investments you can make in your 20s that pay exponential dividends later. Nobody claps for you when you make them now, but by 35 they'll wonder how you've built such a strong, meaningful life. But first, let's address the core misconception that's costing an entire generation their potential. We've confused the markers of success with the makers of success. We chase the symbols, the title, the ring, the skyline apartment, instead of developing the skills and character that naturally produce those things over time. That's the trap, and it's what I call the early achievement paradox. The harder you chase external validation in your 20s, the more likely you are to make silent compromises that derail your future. You take the dream job you secretly hate, stay in the relationship that drains you because it looks good on social media, rack up debt just to maintain an image you can't afford. These decisions don't just cost you in the moment. They compound over time, quietly steering you off course. Let me be clear. Achievements in your 20s do matter, but only when they're a byproduct of the right focus, not the focus itself. That focus is what I call identity capital, the invisible assets you build within yourself. They don't show up on a resume, no one claps for them, but they appreciate with time and no one can take them away. So what should you actually be building? Let me introduce you to a framework I call the ICE method, drawn from years of studying people who not only thrive in their 20s, but keep thriving for decades. I stands for identity formation, discovering who you truly are outside of culture, pressure, and performance. C, capacity building, developing the skills to navigate complexity, produce value, and adapt in chaos. E, energy protection, creating boundaries and systems that protect your physical, mental, and emotional fuel. Most people, they neglect all 3. Here's how the typical 20s play out. You graduate, you optimize for prestige, take a job that sounds good to others even if it teaches you nothing. You mimic the lifestyle of your peers without questioning it. You say yes to everything out of FOMO, relationships, events, opportunities, until you're spread too thin to master anything. You burn out and keep going, running on caffeine, dopamine, and the illusion of momentum. I know this life well because I lived it. In my early 20s, I landed a top consulting job. It looked great, but I wasn't growing. I wasn't learning. I kept toxic friendships for status. Said yes to every networking event, every project. By I had the resume but not the life. Low fulfillment, shallow connections, chronic exhaustion. I'd built something that looked amazing but felt empty. So let me ask you, have you ever chosen prestige over purpose? Have you followed a path that made sense to others but not to you? Or maybe, have you made a bold choice that others questioned but felt deeply right? Your story matters, and it might just help someone else who's navigating the same tension. Now, let's talk about the alternative, the path less traveled. It's not glamorous. It won't get applause in your 20s, but by 35, it'll set for you apart completely. Let's break down how to implement the ICE method, starting with identity formation. This is about separating your authentic self from your conditioned self. Here's how. 1. Value excavation. Write down your biggest goals, Then ask yourself why 5 times for each. You'll uncover whether that goal is truly yours or a projection. I once believed I wanted to be a lawyer, but after digging I realized I craved respect and security, not law. That clarity changed everything too. Controlled failure exposure put yourself in low-stakes situations where failure is likely. It builds detachment from outcomes. For me, that was a stand-up comedy class. Bombing on stage taught me to laugh at failure and take bolder risks elsewhere. 3. Relationship inventory. List the people in your life in 2 columns: energy givers, energy takers. Review this quarterly. Gradually shift time toward those who fuel you. Just this one habit can completely shift your trajectory. C. Capacity building. These are the meta skills that compound over decades. 1. Deep work capacity. Your ability to focus without distraction is your superpower. Start with 30 minutes daily. No phone, no tabs, no noise. Increase gradually. 2 hours of deep focus a day. You'll outpace 95% of people too. Discomfort tolerance. Can you stay present when things get hard? Train this by doing small, hard things: cold showers, awkward conversations, reaching out to people who intimidate you. The muscle you're building. Resilience. 3. Learning agility in a fast-changing world. The ability to learn fast matters more than what you already know. Every month, sprint to learn one new skill, something that stretches you. It's less about the topic and more about the process of becoming adaptable. In just 3 years, these principles shifted everything for me, from burnout to clarity, from status chasing to self-ownership. But we're not done yet. There's one more piece most people completely neglect. Energy protection. Let's talk about systems that guard your energy. 1. Attention hygiene. Cut the noise. Delete apps that drain you. Only check news once a week. Unsubscribe from every low-value input. I did this at 26 and won back 15 hours a week. 2. Recovery. Rhythm. Don't wait to burn out before you rest. Design a rhythm before you need it. 1 daily renewal ritual: meditation, reading, movement. 1 midweek screen-free evening. 1 full day offline every weekend. Make rest a system, not a reaction. 3. Decision minimization. Every small decision costs mental energy. Eliminate them. Meal templates, capsule wardrobe, automated savings, morning and evening routines. Protect your brain for what actually matters. By 29, I wasn't ahead in the traditional sense, but I had something rare: clarity, energy, and peace. Not because I was special, but because I invested in what mattered while others maintained appearances. Even now I catch myself drifting, tempted by shiny opportunities because of how they look, not how they align. When that happens, I ask myself, am I chasing status or staying aligned with my values? That question has saved me more than once. That simple self-check, which I now use instinctively, has saved me countless hours and thousands of dollars. It stopped me from chasing things that looked impressive, but felt wrong. As you begin to implement the iced method, keep this in mind. There are 4 powerful investments most people completely overlook in their 20s, and ignoring them can cost you more than you realize. 1. Invest in psychological flexibility. Most people in their 20s are busy trying to figure it all out. They build rigid identities and detailed life plans that eventually become cages. But here's the truth. The most valuable skill isn't certainty, it's adaptability. In my mid-20s, I had an elaborate 5-year roadmap, career goals, relationship goals, even where I'd live. Then the company I worked for collapsed. I panicked, not because I didn't have options, but because reality had broken my plan. Eventually, I realized the problem wasn't the disruption, it was the plan itself. The fix: treat your identity like a hypothesis, not a declaration. Ask, what am I curious about right now? Not, what's my one true passion forever? Your 20s are for exploration, not final answers. 2. Invest in relationship depth over breadth. The pressure to network and collect followers often leads to dozens of shallow connections and no real support system. I lived that life: 500 plus LinkedIn contacts, constant networking events. But when things got hard, most of those connections vanished. The truth is, one true ally is worth 100 acquaintances. So here's the shift. Identify the 5 to 10 people who truly enrich your life, then deliberately deepen those relationships, even if it means letting go of the superficial ones. 3. Invest in process over outcomes in your 20s. It's easy to get obsessed with results, the job title, the income, the relationship. But without systems and habits, achievements collapse under pressure. I've made this mistake more times than I can count. Big goals, zero process, and every time, it led to frustration. The solution is simple but rare. Fall in love with the routine, not the result. Instead of asking, how do I get X? Ask, what's the daily process that creates X, and how do I enjoy doing that consistently? That's how real transformation happens. 4. Invest in longer time horizons. This might be the most important one. Most 20-somethings optimize for the next 6 months, the next bonus, the next trip, the next dopamine hit. But if you can learn to make decisions with a 5, 10, even 20-year lens, you gain a superpower. At 24, I turned down a higher-paying job to join a smaller company where I could learn more. Short-term loss, $15,000 in salary, long-term win. The skills I gained there eventually allowed me to earn 5 times more, with more autonomy and fulfillment. Ask yourself often, what would my future self thank me for investing in right now? Then commit at least 20% of your time, money, and energy to things that may not pay off this year, but could change everything in 5. When you choose to build identity, capacity, and energy systems in your 20s, when you prioritize the invisible inner work over the visible outer chase, you lay a foundation that can support extraordinary success for decades. This isn't about denying gratification, it's about trading cheap highs for deep growth. As Ryan Holiday put it, the obstacle is the way. The challenges you lean into today become the unfair advantages of your future. So here's your challenge. Pick just one element from the ICE method this week, and take one small action: a 30-minute deep work session, a difficult conversation you've been avoiding, deleting a social media app that drains your energy. Start small, but start now. Even a tiny shift will start to change your trajectory, because in a world obsessed with looking successful, the real flex is becoming the kind of person who can't help but succeed, with or without the spotlight. If this resonated with you, the video right here will take you even deeper. Your life, your move. Start now.